Infinity Gamer here, and welcome to another battle report. This time I take my O12 and go up against a combined army vanilla list, which is always quite exciting. Now, the list that I'm taking this time, I actually took to a local tournament and it did quite well. So I'm now taking it again to see if that was just a fluke or whether it's actually run competitively. So we will see how it goes. So let's talk about the list. So what am I taking? Okay, so I've got the Omega, Epsilon, Gamma, Varangian with SMG, Kappa Lieutenant, Sirius Forward Observer, another Varangian, a Warcore, a Gangbuster, and another Varangian in Order Pool 1. Then in Order Pool 2, I've got Cho pretending to be a Kappa, a normal Kappa, a Varangian, and another Gangbuster. So as you can immediately tell, I'm trying to solve that order pool problem that I keep facing in every single game. So now I've got more orders, hopefully, than I should need. What am I packing? I'm packing 13 regular orders, 1 irregular because of the Warcore, and then 4 impetuous orders. So very happy currently with that, and I love the impetuous orders because it means the Varangians can do stuff without really depleting the main regular order pool. And obviously I can spend a command token on the Warcore's irregular order to turn it into a regular one and use that if I need to. So lots of flexibility here, and I've split the Gangbusters into the different order pools so that hopefully I get the flexibility. If I get order pools stripped or something, I can still move them, and obviously I can move models across if I need to. So let's go through the models. So Omega with his HMG, obviously he's got ODD, and so he's pretty good. I like him. The Epsilon also has an HMG, and obviously has MSV2 and also a nanopulsar and mimetism, I believe. So he's pretty good. And obviously I'm taking the Gamma with the Foulbark, which I haven't taken for a long time, but I like the idea of having maybe some heavy support in there. Varangians, SMGs, I've packed them all the same. So SMGs, 2 chain colts, smoke grenades, Kappa, Lieutenant, just combi rifle because I don't want Cho to stick out or my Lieutenant to stick out, just in case. So I'm trying to hide all the Kappas there. Sirius Forward Observer with obviously the Sirius Bot with Heavy Riot Stopper. Varangians with SMG again. Warcore just with a Flash Pulse. He's just there to be annoying and provide an extra irregular order, really. And then the Gangbusters are killer hacking devices. I haven't done hacking really before at all. I don't really know what to do with them, but I'm going to take them and see what I can do. So what's the plan? So obviously you can see a couple of Noxes in there pretending in the image on the right. Those are going to be standing in for Varangians because I don't have enough models to run Varangians. Hippo is going to be a Varangian, as is Valkyrie. So that will at least give you some essence. And then I think there's a Hacker's Lamb, which I randomly got, that will be one of the Gangbusters. So I'm pretty happy with this. As my intention in terms of setup and things like that. With the mission that we're playing, which I'll go into shortly, my forward observers can actually go forwards quite a lot, as can the Gangbusters. So I'm hoping to be able to do some serious area denial, use the mad traps to stop people from getting towards the antenna, and then just use the Omega to run around and shoot things, use the Epsilon for some kind of overwatch, and use the Gamma for some heavy hitting if things get into my deployment zone. I've got to worry about things dropping behind me. So I think this is a fairly solid list. Let's go into the mission. So the mission is power pack. So the idea is that we turn on antennas, own antennas, and all that fanciness. I popped it here on the screen so that you can read it in your own time. In terms of deployment, I win, but he chooses who deploys in the zones, and he puts me at the bottom and he goes at the top. So let's have a look at deployment. So I'll quickly take you through his deployment first, because he did deploy first. The first thing he deploys is an Icodron over on the far right-hand side. The back right is his Dr. Worm. Then moving across, he bunches a whole bunch of things up on this left-hand deployment side of the weird deployment that Power Pack gives you. So he's got a Servant for Dr. Worm. He's got his Data Razi. He's got another Icodron, which you can all see bundled up there. Then he puts slightly forward this guy who is his MSV2 Sapper in cover. And then at the top of the roof, he puts his Nexus Hacker. So that is everyone that we can see, but then he's also got some camo tokens in the center building. Not sure what they are, I probably should because I play combined every so often, but that is where they are. That obviously causes me a bit of a headache because I can't deploy things too close to camo tokens. So, and then he places his HVT right at the very, very back, but actually quite in the open, which I am grateful for. So let's have a look at my deployment. The first thing I deploy is the Epsilon on the building, covering most of the arena. Then I deployed the Gamma behind the Epsilon facing outwards so that he's got good coverage out as well. As you can see in the photo, he's then backed up by a couple of Varangians, one of which is a Nox and the other is Valkyrie. And they're kind of covering his rear as best as possible, and also the Epsilon's rear a little bit. Then within the building, we have two more Varangians, one of which is represented by Hippolyta and is kind of facing out. The other is another Nox. That's it for the right-hand deployment zone. On the left-hand deployment zone, we have the three Kappas, the top one of which is Cho in hollow, and the one on the left is my lieutenant. Then in that same deployment zone, we also have the Warcore sitting on top of the building. Then outside the deployment zone with a bit of forward deployment, we've got the Gangbuster, who I push all the way up as far as I can over onto that left-hand side to cover that big blob in his deployment zone with two Mad Traps. One of those Mad Traps is on the building near the Warcore, a little bit back, and the other one is behind the burger stand. So I'm trying to cover anything coming forward and also anything that might drop behind me. You can see them slightly better in the photos. The other Gangbuster I put on the roof of the hangar, and then I deploy his two Mad Traps, one on the building outside behind, and then one near the car at the bottom. You can see both of them represented as gremlins there. Next we have Team Sirius. They are split actually. So I've got the lady on the other side of the hangar facing outwards, and then the bot is inside the hangar trying to kind of deal with whatever are the camo tokens and kind of guard that central satellite. So I think this is a good plan. The next thing that happens is he lays down his held back unit, which is the big chonky guy whose name escapes me for just this moment, but you'll see in a second I do know what it is. And the thing I held back is the Omega, which I put there just to cover any drops in the back area there. Then my HVT, oh yeah, I forgot to mention him, so I plonk him basically just behind there in the middle. So let's go into turn one. So let's get into the game. Okay, so the first thing I do is strip 2 orders from his order pool. And yeah, then he starts. So he's obviously got his Extreme Impetuous stuff first. So the Data Razi runs forward with its Extreme Impetuous. That brings it into line of sight of the Warcore. So the Warcore, of course, goes to do a Flash Pulse shot. That's what he's there for. And the Data Razi chooses to throw smoke. That's pretty much to cover the Sapper guy, as you can see. I get a 10, but he passes with a 20. The smoke fails, which is handy because he was trying to throw it onto his MSV2 Sapper guy. So that is okay. Then the Zeotron stomps up forward. Gets into line of sight of the Gangbuster and the Warcore. The Warcore decides to Flash Pulse. Again, that's kind of what he's here for. And the Gangbuster decides to dodge. I get a 5. He gets a 1 and a 7. The Gangbuster makes his save, and the Warcore gets a hit on the Zeotron, but the Zeotron makes his save. So in summary, nothing really happens, which is a good news for me. I'm getting the feeling that Gangbuster probably isn't going to last long though. So he does exactly the same again. The Gangbuster passed a save. He chooses to fail his guts, so moves slightly forward into cover, which is what you can see there. So then he decides to do the same again with the Zeotron, moves the Zeotron forward to get line of sight onto the Gangbuster. The Warcore still has line of sight, so chooses to Flash Pulse, and the Gangbuster actually chooses to shoot this time. The Gangbuster gets a 10, which means I beat all of his shots, but he makes his save. The Warcore hits with a 9, but he makes his saves. So, second round, nothing happens. So, he goes again. Chooses to move the Zeotron backwards a little bit. Again, I choose to make the Gangbuster shoot and make the Warcore do his Flash Pulse. The Gangbuster gets a 12, which is a crit after all the mods have been applied. So the Zeotron takes a wound, and the Warcore misses with his Flash Pulse. And my crit, obviously, from the Gangbuster cancelled out the Zeatron shooting on my Gangbuster. So good result for me as far as I'm concerned. It's taken currently 3 orders for the Zeatron to only get to the stage where he's lost a wound, and Gangbuster hasn't lost anything, so that's great. He's still got 5 regular orders left at this stage and 1 irregular order. So then the Sapper dude decides to idle, which attracts a flash pulse from the Warcore. The Sapper then shoots at the Warcore. We got the saturation zone, so it loses 1 to its burst, and the Warcore receives a crit, so is dead. But I can kind of see why he's done this. I'm very happy because that's taken an order to take away a Warcore model. So again, pretty happy with how things have gone so far. The Zeatron then moves up again to get into line of sight with the Gangbuster. Now, obviously, without the threat of a flash pulse from the Warcore. The Gangbuster chooses to shoot. I get a 10, which beats both of his hits. He fails his save and takes another wound. He's now down to 3 regular orders and an irregular order. I think he still has the Zeatron's tactical awareness order as well, but I think that's the case. He moves the Zeatron back again. The Gangbuster decides to shoot. He decides to shoot back. So what is this? This is like attempt 4 or 5 of doing the same thing. The Gangbuster misses completely. The Zeatron gets 2 hits on the Gangbuster. Gangbuster fails his saves and is gone burgers. So he's finally achieved what he wants to achieve. Then Dr. Worm activates. He chooses to activate his slave, moves that up, and engineers a wound off the Zeatron. The final order he then has left, he chooses to go into suppression in combination with a command token. So he selects 4 models to do this. The 4 models he chooses to go into suppression are the Zeatron, the Sapper, the Nexus Hacker, and Dr. Worm. So at the end of that turn, I'm pretty happy. I've lost a Warcore and a Gangbuster, and that's taken a lot of action from the Zeatron, which I am incredibly scared of, and the Sapper MSV 2 guy. So at this stage, I'm pretty happy. It certainly isn't the worst first turn I've ever had in Infinity. So we will see what I can turn this into with my turn 1. So I've obviously got my 4 Varangians to go first. They've got their impetuous orders. Those are standard impetuous, so I don't have to use them if I don't want to. So I choose to move the Varangian that's represented by Hippolyta, choose to throw smoke. I get the smoke off from Hippo. But I also attract an ARO from the Icodron who goes to Flash Pulse. The Flash Pulse misses, so the smoke goes off, which is good. The next Varangian, which is the Nox Varangian, decides to move up. This is in the second order pool, and choose to move again to be in the smoke. I then decide to cancel the other impetuous orders because I've got no plans and I don't want to do anything too soon. And also, those other 2 Varangians are kind of covering the Gamma's back, just in case something decides to AD drop in. So I've got to leave them there, just so that the Gamma isn't left completely high and dry. Talking of the Gamma, I then activate the Gamma and decide to try and get him to discover the camo token that's inside the hangar. But the discover fails, so that doesn't work very well at all. I then choose to activate the Gangbuster that's on the roof of the hangar and lying prone. He moves like a mil, but I'm mostly trying to move the man traps that are below him. So I move one of the man traps forward, which triggers the camo token, which was a mine. So his mine dies and the mad trap goes with it, but I've kind of achieved what I want, which is I know what the actual model is and I know where it is now, so that's good. Then I activate Team Sirius. The doggo moves up and tries to discover the camo token that is there on the floor, but I fail my discover, which is dumb. Affecting discovers all left, right, and centre here. Then the Epsilon chooses to activate, but idles. No AROs. Then it shoots the Icodron. He chooses to flash. He's hitting on 4s because of smoke and mimetism and probably range or something like that. I am not suffering any negatives, which is good apart from cover. I get 2 hits inflict with the HMG. So I lose a burst, don't forget, because of the saturation zone as well. The HMG's damage 15. He saves 1, but the other one goes through, which puts him into first level unconscious. He's got double unconscious, just in case you're not familiar with Ichadrons. Then I activate the Omega and walk past the gap, which probably isn't the best idea, but I figure with ODD and stuff, maybe that's okay. The Zeodron AROs and is in suppressive. The Sapper MSV2 guy also does a suppressive shoot ARO, and the Data Razi decides to ARO smoke because it's not part of the suppression group, don't forget. So it can do whatever it likes. I split 3 shots onto the Zeodron and 1 on the Sapper, and because I lose 1 for the saturation zone, that basically means that there's 2 on the Zeodron and 1 on the Sapper. I get a crit on the Zeodron and a 2, which the 2 is cancelled by his shot to me, but the crit is excellent. He also gets a crit on his other 2 dice, but then we realise he's actually -1 for the saturation zone, which he didn't factor in. He did his full burst 3. So then we actually call the TO over and just go, how do we want to resolve this? Because he rolled 1 too many dice, and one of those 1 too many was a crit. And then, as it turns out, we forgot about the Omega's ODD, so his crit wasn't a crit. So it doesn't actually matter. So that was good, but confusing. It also probably would have helped if I'd have been more open about the Omega's ODD, which we did both know, but we just forgot in that moment. So that's good. So that means that the Zeodron has lost a wound. And then Data Razi, sorry, I don't know why I struggle with that name so much. The Data Razi, the smoke goes off, which is annoying, but is obviously fine. And then the Sapper dude hits me with a 5. That's obviously, which beats my roll, but I save it, so that is okay. So I've got to factor in the fact that MSV2 guy is now in smoke, so I've got to be more cautious now about triggering AROs from him. The Gangbuster then moves again with no AROs, then chooses to move as its second short skill. This is just me highlighting how much of a mistake I've made. I then choose to activate it again and move forward. Attract no AROs, and then say I want to forward observe on his HVT in an attempt to get my objective. And I'm quite nicely reminded that because he's a hacker, he can't forward observe the HVT. So I am very lucky in that my friend lets me take back that second short skill, so I just choose to shoot at the Ichadron, who is already unconscious, because I know Dr. Worm's just around the corner. So I just, because I've got the spare order and because I've half committed, I hit the Ichadron with a 7, but sadly he makes his save, and then I put the Gangbuster into suppression on the rooftop. I've still got a couple of orders left. I do love this list because I've actually got orders to play with. So then the Omega activates again, moves, suffers no AROs, so moves again. Then the Sirius Girl moves, so then I activate Team Sirius. I move the Sirius Girl up and observe the HVT. But even though I think forward observe is usually burst 2, again because of the saturation zone, that moves it down to a burst 1, which means you only get 1 attempt to forward observe. I successfully pass the forward observe, but I don't have enough orders for a second one. So I've basically done half of my objective, and I've now got to hope that in his turn 2, he doesn't kill her. Otherwise, I don't do that. So I don't think I planned that very well. I obviously wasted some orders. That Gangbuster that I was activating is in pool 2, and I didn't have anything else to use the order, so I don't see those as wasted orders. Otherwise, I'm relatively happy. What we've done, I've killed a Ichadron, so that's stripped him of 1 order. But annoyingly, that's pretty much it. So he's actually not terribly worse off. So I think equal in terms of how badly both of our first turns went. I wasn't trying to shoot stuff very much, but I didn't achieve any objectives either. I just moved around doing. I basically faffed. So let's go into his turn 2. So he's obviously got his extremely impetuous with his Data Razi. So we basically just look, because I don't think you can pre-measure this. Again, correct me if I'm wrong, but you've got to kind of guess as to which model is the closest for things like impetuous moves. So we assume that the Omega is the closest unit for the Datarazi. So the Datarazi moves up, but attracts no AROs. So he then goes to throw smoke to again kind of cover that sapper dude, and successfully does so, which is obviously going to potentially prove problematic. Then he activates Dr. Worm and uses the slave to attempt to heal the Zeodron, and he succeeds, so that takes off a wound. At this point, he's got 7 orders left and 1 irregular, so his order pool is a little bit lighter than mine, and it's weird to be on the right side of the order pool list. But he chooses to use the Tactical Awareness order on the Zeodron tag, which basically means he drops out of suppression to move, attracts no AROs, so moves again, which is worrying. I hate it when a big model is on the move. Activates a regular order to jump, uses super jump, I think, onto the top of the building. Doesn't attract any AROs, and he pops a shot at the gangbuster in his back, which is extremely cowardly, and that kills the gangbuster. But luckily in my turn, I'd used one of my many moves to set the mad traps, so they're still live even though the gangbuster is gone. Unlike the first gangbuster, where because the controller, the gangbuster model, died before he'd set the mad traps, those mad traps are still on the table, but they're now redundant. So luckily I still have a live mad trap kind of guarding that center console, which should be within its 8. So that is good. And don't forget with mad traps, they don't need line of sight to activate. As soon as something enters their zone of control, they'll run around walls and everything to get to their target. So happy with that. So the gangbuster's gone. He then drops in his Kadali. I hate these things. So he used something very similar, a Lecter or something like that, in a previous game, and it just tore through my entire army. As you can see with where he's dropped his Kadali, he has plans to do exactly the same here. So he then spends an order to move Kadali up, and then because he attracts no AROs, he moves Kadali up again. And he's in, even though he's in zone of control of a couple of the Kappas, all I've got really as an option is like a dodge change face, but they're already covering the arcs they need to, so I basically don't do any AROs. So then he spends another order on the Kadali to move up to get into line of fire with my blonde Kappa. Surprise, surprise for him, that blonde Kappa is actually Cho. So I reveal her and choose to ARO shoot with my nanopulsar. He's using his assault pistol, so he's rolling 5 dice, but I've got my nanopulsar. He's rolling 5 dice and trying to get 17s, so when he rolls and 4 hit, I'm not entirely surprised. I then save one of those hits, but then with the 3 going through, Cho is super dead. So obviously, I had to reveal that it was Cho when I rolled the dice, when I announced that I was going to shoot back with the nanopulsar, which is something I forgot to do in a previous game. And then he's obviously waiting for me to announce that because it's dead and off the table, that it's my lieutenant, but he's not so lucky because it's just the chain of command. So obviously the nanopulsar hits him. He uses his BTS save, he fails, and it's unconscious. So I'm actually super happy with that as a result. It is obviously not nice losing something like Cho, but in terms of a matchup, that was definitely the better result, because otherwise that Kadali would have, gone around the corner, potentially shot my Omega in the back, or gone around the other corner and shot those 2 Kappas, one of which was my lieutenant. So I'm really happy with how that matchup has gone down. He's still got 4 orders left at this stage and an irregular. He spends an order to shuffle the rooftop camo token to touch the objective. So he basically crawls it like 2 inches. He then reveals a Caliban and whips on the antenna and recamos. So you can obviously work out how many orders he did to achieve that, because he did it properly. So he then gets the antenna, but at least I know it's a Caliban. I also know it's, because he rolled 2 dice to do the whip, I also know it's the chain of command Caliban, because I was aware that if I used Cho, I would get +3 to my whip roll and get 2 dice to try and capture an antenna. So yeah, so it's the chain of command Caliban that's sitting on the rooftop there. So he's now got 2 orders left and an irregular. He jumps the Zeotron with the intention of shooting the Omega. Nothing else gets an ARO. The Omega decides to shoot as its ARO, and he decides to shoot the Omega, which I'm pretty I knew he was going to do. He's -6 thanks to ODD and cover, but then +3 for range, so -6 in total. I'm on straights. I hit, but he misses with both of his, and he takes another wound. I'm loving this Zeatron just chipping wounds off itself by doing stuff. So yep, now he's down to 1 regular order and an irregular order. He chooses to use his regular and a command token to do a coordinated move on the remaining Icodron, the Datarazi, the Nexus Hacker, and that's it. And he moves them all. They attract no AROs, and so he moves them again. And that is the end of his turn. Pretty happy again. Obviously a little bit gutted to have lost that Gangbuster, but glad it set a trap. I'm obviously a bit gutted to have lost Cho, but given the trade-off between a Cho versus a Kadali, I'm actually pretty happy that I stopped it at Cho. So, yep, I've lost 2 more models, but I'm not too worried about my order pool. I actually think that's a pretty good second turn. So my turn 2, I've obviously got the Varangians to go first. They've got their impetuous orders. The first thing I decided to do is move the Varangian. So I spend a command token to move the Varangian that's in order pool 2 into the other order pool. And I've got space now, not only because he's killed the Gangbuster that was on the roof, which obviously frees up a slot in the other pool, because you're only allowed to move from one pool to another if you actually have physical space. So they can't be unconscious because they're still on the table. They've actually got to be off the table, as far as I know. So I then also spend another command point to move the Kappa into the other order pool, which I'm able to do because Cho. He does check this because it seems like it shouldn't be possible, so we do double check, and I can. So yeah, pretty much order pool 2 is now in order pool 1, and that's heaps of orders, which he's obviously not super happy about, but I am. So I move the Varangian up, throw smoke just to cover myself, and then move another Varangian up. That moves. Then I move another Varangian, that moves as well. Then I move up another one, shoot it in Icodron, and take the Icodron to double unconscious, which is good. Then I spend a regular order on one of the Varangians to move and speculative throw up onto the top of the building. My plan here is to try and get the Epsilon to move across and hopefully discover and shoot the Caliban that's up there. I succeed the speculative throw up. Also in the back of my mind, I'm thinking I might be moving the Team Sirius controller around the corner to that antenna that's next to the building. So that's why I throw smoke up onto the top of the rooftop there, because then it means the Calibans, I think, have MSV1, I think, or at least one of them has the option to. So at least now that it's in smoke, it shouldn't be able to shoot at things. Okay, so then Team Sirius moves. I basically move the controller around so that you can see the HVT again, and goes to forward observe that. Fails, so then I move her up again and go to do the HVT, which I then get. So I get my objective. The thing I'm messing up here is that part of the reason why I'm moving Team Sirius up forward to that antenna is because I forget that because I think it's an antenna. It's not, it's just a piece of scenery that happens to look like an antenna. So I'm very lucky that my opponent, when I tell him my mistake, he lets me kind of undo a move because it's obvious that I've just massively misidentified. But unfortunately that doesn't undo the fact that part of the reason why I was throwing smoke on the roof of the Caliban was to protect Team Sirius from going up and getting that antenna. So I was just an idiot. Luckily I've got the orders in this list so that it doesn't ruin my game, but I've just got to be more careful in the future, really. So yeah, anyway, so I got my objective for forward observing the HVT. Then I activate Team Sirius again. The dog goes to do an intuitive attack onto the camo token. The camo token chooses to shoot back, and we both fail shots or saves. The intuitive attack fails because it's on the whip, I think, and then his shot fails as well. But it reveals because he rolled a dice, and I can see it's a shrouded forward observer. So, but it's still prone. So yes, I then activate my Omega. He chooses to idle. The Zeodron decides its ARO is going to be to shoot, and he reveals a Noctifer missile launcher on top of the containers. Yay! So the Noctifer is going to then decide to arrow shoot my Omega. I decide that I'm going to put all of my HMG shots into the Zeodron, which, because of the saturation zone, means that my burst 4 goes down to burst 3. The Zeodron crits my Omega, which cancels out, obviously, all of my shots, which were all excellent hits, which is so annoying. All 3 of mine hit and were brilliant, and then he does a crit on me. The Noctifer then gets his heavy missile shot. He hits despite all the modifiers in place. The Omega has to do 3 saves, and it's armor piercing, so that he loses half of his armor. So I fail my saves, and the Omega is gone. Don't we all love losing a model in our active turn? Like, isn't it the best feeling ever? So, moving on from that, I then activate Team Sirius again. I decide to move the bots forward because I think the glue gun from the heavy riot stopper might actually be a good matchup against the Zeodron. I basically get the bot in range of the Zeodron, and the Zeodron decides to shoot back at the bot. So the Sirius bot shoots at the Zeodron. The Zeodron misses his shot, but the glue from the Sirius bot is successful, well, obviously because it auto hits, and then he fails his save, so the Zeodron is glued, which is a great result for me. And I needed to do that because I also was potentially thinking about moving the Team Sirius controller into there and potentially activating that console that was in the middle of the hangar, especially now that the Shrouded is revealed and there are no mines available. So that was my plan. Sadly, while I did attract an ARO from the Shrouded, who was prone when I moved my Team Sirius up, and its ARO was to drop a camo token, which definitely isn't a mine. So that sucks. I then kind of lose my head a little bit and decide to move Team Sirius again because I'm thinking I can move the dog around the corner, glue the Shrouded and the mine at the same time. But sadly, by activating, the camo token was within 8 of my Team Sirius controller. So by activating, the mine goes off on the controller, which is the thing I was desperately trying to avoid most of the game. So I then decide to change my action. Instead of trying to shoot the Shrouded and the mine, I try to dodge. I fail my dodge, sadly. The mine goes off and she dies, which sucks because that was my last specialist as well. So yeah, I started the game with Team Sirius as forward observers as a specialist, and 2 gangbusters, which, because they were hackers, they were also specialists, so could capture antenna. And then obviously Cho, being chain of command, she counts as being able to activate antennas too. I've lost all 4 of my specialists, so I now can't get any antennas. So, dumb, pretty much. I don't know. So then I just decide to go on a bit of a rampage, activate the Epsilon, go for the heavy missile launcher guy, Noctifer. All 3 of mine miss. I'm doing it through smoke. We actually find out that the heavy missile launcher is out of range, so can't shoot me at all. So those were normal rolls. So that's how badly that sucks, is that I get 4 shots down to 3 because of saturation zone, and I miss all 3, and it's a normal roll. So I do the same again. So I hit with 1 with a 6, and he fails his save, so chooses to go into a dogged state. I don't think there's any reason why, because it's my last order. But so that HMG guy dies. And that is all my orders done, and that's the end of my turn 2. How do I think that went? It sucks to have lost the Omega. It sucks to have lost Team Sirius. I'm finally hurting, because the other things I kind of expect to lose, and it wasn't too bad. And it sucks that I lost those in my active turn. That's the thing that sucks the most. I'm glad the HMG is out of the way, because that Noctifer was going to be a pain. Despite, even with the saturation zone, because it's an HMG, the burst 1 is fine because it can still do templates. So I'm glad the Epsilon actually managed to remove that. I spent too many orders faffing with Team Sirius, kind of like I did with the Gangbuster at my turn 2. I think I'm now suffering from the problem where I'm so not used to having orders that now that I've got loads of them, I'm just throwing them at useless stuff. So order discipline now needs to come into effect now that I don't have order shortage as a problem. But anyway, we go into his turn 3. He hasn't really lost anything. He's lost an Icadron, an HMG. His Zeodron is glued, but still generates an order and a tactical awareness order because it's not in a null state. And off the top of my head, that's everything he's lost. So that's not great. He's got 8 orders and an irregular order and an impetuous at the start, and obviously the tactical awareness order. So that's his order pool at the start of his turn 3. He moves a camo token into a different pool using his command token. He then uses his extreme impetuous on the Data Razi. The Gamma gets to get an ARO onto it. So does the Varangian, and both of them choose to shoot. The Gamma gets a hit, and he fails to save, which blocks his smoke, but the Varangian misses because it's an SMG at rubbish range. So that is good. So then he activates the Hacker, which attracts no AROs, and moves. So he activates the Hacker, moves, attracts no AROs, so chooses to move again. He then spends a Lieutenant order on the Hacker, attracts moves, attracts no AROs, so he decides to whip the Mad Trap, which is left over from the Gangbuster that died turn 1, and does a data scan on it, and he gets the objective. Weird, but it seems to work because I think it states an enemy model, not an active enemy trooper or anything like that. So we did look at the wording, and it's legit. So I've got to be careful of that with my Mad Traps. So then he activates the Hacker again, drops it prone and crawls 2 inches, and does a whip roll on the antenna, but luckily fails. He attracted no AROs through that because, I'm a bit thin on the ground on that side of the table. So then he decides to activate it again and decides to crawl in a slightly different direction. This does attract an ARO. I decide to shoot. He pushes the button, but I miss my shot. So it's not the end of the world for him. He spends another order on the Hacker, crawls again, attracts no AROs this time, and decides to crawl again. He decides to activate the Hacker again, the Nexus Hacker. He crawls, attracts no AROs. So he spends a whip on the building thing. You can kind of see it in the photo there, to do a whip, and succeeds. And he gets his second objective, which was to do a whip roll on a building that's in my deployment zone. And because don't forget the deployment zones in this mission are odd shape, so it actually wasn't as easy as we thought, really. So he did a very good job getting to that one. He was actually trying to whip another building, but we realised it wasn't in my deployment zone, fully. So we kind of just let him have a pass and do a different building because we kind of knew what the intent was. He's now got 2 orders left and an irregular, and he's actually still got his tactical awareness order. He activates Dr. Worm and moves the Slave, and decides to move the Worm because he can. Attracts no AROs, so decides to move them both again. Spends another order on the Worm, which is his last regular order. The Slave moves up to the Zeodron, and because it's an engineer, goes to heal, which would strip the glue off the Zeodron and one of the wounds still. Now, this is his last order. Sadly, he's successful. So the Zeodron is back up and running. So this kind of sucks. But okay, I'm going to save my rant about glue for later. But so he removes the wound and the glue. Now the Zeodron still has his tactical awareness order. Now because he wasn't in a null state, he still generated it at the beginning of his turn. So he moves the Zeodron, attracts no AROs, so moves again. Then he uses his command token, which is his second to last one, I think, or his last one, to make his irregular order irregular and puts the Zeodron into suppression. That turn wasn't so terrible. He basically just tried to get objectives. That was his last turn, because it was his turn 3. So he was basically trying to get objectives, trying to score as many points as possible, and get himself set up to defend his deployment zone console from my turn 3. And that's what we're going to, my turn 3. I start the turn with 4 impetuous orders and 8 regular orders in the same order pool. This is insane. I'm loving this order count here. Like 4 Varangians. I mean, Vol SC on his channel, he was recommending how to play O12, and he was recommending maxing out Varangians at 4. I must admit, I didn't like the sound of it to begin with. I think I said so in one of my videos that I don't just like copy and pasting models and spamming models, but I can now see why that's kind of essential in an O12 list. Like, you got some big stuff. The Varangians give you movement, give you options, give you cover, give you extra orders. Like, he was completely right. Absolute hats off to that recommendation. It's working nicely. So I choose to move. So my strategy here is pretty limited. I've got one option. If I can get a Varangian into base-to-base contact with his console, I don't have to do a whip roll or anything like that. I just have to end the game base-to-base contact with his console. That gives me some points. I can then, because I can't do my melee objective, what I need to do is secure HVT. So I might need a second Varangian to go off and get within the zone of control of the HVT. We double-check the rules on this. Even though his Dr. Worm is within the zone of control of the HVT, so long as I have a model as well, I control it, I secure it. So it doesn't matter that he also will have a model there. So that's my plan. I say it was my plan. It was actually someone trying to help me was like, oh, you can still do this. You just got to do this. So I was being coached a bit here because I'm still a bit too new to think about these things. So that's what I do. So I use the impetuous orders. So we understand that the Zeodron is pretty much the closest model to all of these Varangians, which is obviously super handy for me. I use the impetuous on all of the Varangians to move them each. So I take the turn to do one and then another, then another, then another. They basically suffer no AROs, so they move and move their full towards the controller. I decide to back one of those with a regular order and do a move, attract no AROs, and move again, pretty much to the corner of the building. Then I choose to use one of my command tokens and one of my regular orders to do a coordinated move on the Varangians. This is kind of a waste of an order, because I move all of them up and move them up again, but I don't do anything with the one that I'm actually backing to do the movements because it's kind of at the corner and can't do anything. So I think I'm just moving the rest up so that I've got options in case my next thing moves. I've still got 4 or so regular orders left, so I've definitely got plenty. So then the Varangian that I am backing throws smoke, then that is successful. No, sorry, the first attempt to throw smoke actually fails. So this is my 4th from last order to throw smoke again, which is successful. Then I use another order to run him, like move into base-to-base contact. He attracts no AROs because the smoke and the MSV2 guy doesn't have line of sight. So I've got that. Then I've got 3 orders left. So one of the other Varangians, I move, attract no AROs, so move again to pretty much get to the building. Second to last order, I drop prone and crawl around the corner, the Varangian, which gets me in the zone of control of the HVT. So we kind of take a small pause there, just tally up how things are going. Again, this is not a competitive, this is a friendly game, so we're kind of also just making sure that we're doing things properly. So we do a brief tally up, and we're 6-all. So the reason for that is that my antenna isn't being controlled and never got activated. He controls 2 antenna, which gives him 4 points for having more antenna than me, but he doesn't get the bonus point for my antenna also having been activated. So he's on 4. Then he did his 2 objective cards, which gives him 2 points. Currently, I've done my 2 objectives by securing his HVT and forward observing his HVT. And I get 4 points for having my model in base-to-base contact with his console. So we're drawn at 6-all. I've still got 1 order left. But then we realise that there's a bonus point available for Concilium Watch. Now, I know what you're thinking. O12, Peacekeepers, they've got no banned weapons. Varangians don't have the Peacekeeper keyword. So I actually have a Varangian in the zone of control of his Dr. Worm who has the journalist keyword. So I'm actually giving him a bonus point for having a Varangian in the zone of control of his Dr. Worm. Last order, I've basically got an option. I can either lose 7-6, as I am, or I can go around the corner, try and kill Dr. Worm, die, not have my objective card. So 2 out of the 3 scenarios are me losing by 1 point. One of those scenarios is a draw. I won't get the bonus point by killing Dr. Worm. I'll just stop him from getting the extra point for the Concilium Watch. So it will be a draw. So I've got 2 scenarios. I either lose by 1 point or we draw. My natural reaction is to spend my last regular order to poke around the corner to get line of sight on Dr. Worm. I think I make a mistake here because the Varangian is fitted with an HMG. My initial gut reaction, and the thing I suggest, is that I use the 2 chain Colt rifles, which ironically are the weapons that are banned by the Concilium Watch that are giving him his point. So I'm thinking, let's use the 2 chain Colt rifles on Dr. Worm. The advice is that I maybe use the SMG because it might stand a better chance. It's +3 at that range, which is good. So I do shoot. All of mine miss. He misses his 2. So nothing happens. Final score is 7-6 with him winning thanks to Concilium Watch. How much does that suck? I'm running the one army where Concilium Watch should actually be difficult to score against. And of course I use the model that doesn't have the Peacekeeper special rule and is using banned guns. So it was kind of hilarious. Honestly, every time I play this guy, it's pretty much the last orders that decide the game. And this is a prime example of when that's been the case. So you can that's the end of the main battle report. That's what happens. So I'm going to do a brief summary of the game, anything I've learned, and a couple of gripes. So feel free to zone out if you don't like to hear an English guy doing what English guys do best and moan. But I love the list. I'm really happy with this list. As I said, this list I took in a mock tournament at the previous weekend. This list won me a game in the tournament. I'd lost my first round when I took a very different list that had 2 deltas dropping in and an omega and a epsilon. So that had low order count and I lost badly, like 10-0. And then I took this list onto my second game and I won that. It was closer, it was like 7-4, but the orders definitely helped. And even my opponent in that competition was saying exactly the same. It's like, I'm killing units, but I'm not stripping your orders. And I was like, yeah, I mean, he's focusing on the big stuff. Like he was doing exactly the same. Killing the epsilon, killing the gamma, killing the omega. But because the Varangians and the Kappas and everything else is generating me orders, losing a couple of big things doesn't feel so painful because it's not eating into my order pool. Yes, it's eating into my ability to be offensive or even defensive in AROs. But I'm still able to do stuff, and I've still got gangbusters and serious bots, which are really good at running around and doing stuff. So I do love this list. It's currently probably my favourite. The thing I'm looking to potentially do is drop the gamma for maybe something more useful. I'm thinking a second team Sirius. I'm possibly thinking of a Cyber Ghost so that I can use the repeater of the dogs more offensively. I need to look into a lot more. I've done no research into hacking programs, so that's a huge learning curve for me that I've got to do. I love the Varangians. I'm getting advice now that I'm rolling with 4 Varangians, to use them more offensively. Throw them up the table. The reason why I feel so scared about doing that is because I lose a Varangian, I technically lose 2 orders because I'm losing their impetuous and I'm losing the regular order they generate. So I'm paying them a bit more defensively because they are great cheerleaders. And I can, throw them up, throw smoke and block lines of fire and the epsilon. Another reason why I want to look into the hacking programs is because I can see in my head a cool matchup where the Varangians are popping smoke in front of the epsilon and it's using its MSV2 to shoot through smoke. And then I maybe got a Cyber Ghost with white noise countering an opponent's MSV2 with the Omega's ODD and him just running up. Again, I've got this in my head as a potential combo that could be quite cool. I think it's incredibly situational. So I also like the fact that I've maybe then got the hacking programs and the repeaters to use as well. This is getting into some really advanced gameplay and I'm not quite ready for it yet. So I'm going to try and first source myself a second team series to see if I can just use the bots a bit more offensively and use their heavy riot stoppers. And then maybe think about maybe using the gangbusters and the bots a bit more offensively too. I love having the war core in my list. They're so underrated. Like, I think they're only like 3 or 5 points. And that flash pulse and that irregular order. The irregular order is great because you can spend a command token to turn it into a regular order if you're coming up short. But that flash pulse actually makes people think twice a lot. And I've lost games because something that was going to go and get an antenna or an objective has been flash pulsed. So they're really good. So I'm keeping the war core. I'm actually going to get the model because I think it's going to be a staple part of my O12 list. What don't I like about O12 right now? The thing I'm really struggling with at the moment, and this is definitely a one-sided rant because very few people agree with me on this, but the glues, the adhesive, to me seems good on paper, and I like the fact that it's non-lethal, but I wish it didn't mean that the model was still in play and not in a null state. So this is what has happened to me several times, is a mad trap has grabbed something, or I've managed to get my heavy riot stopper off on something, and the thing that annoys me is that the model that's glued still generates orders, still kind of gets AROs, but the only thing it can do is really like a reset. It can't really do anything major, but it still counts as a model that's in a non-null state for objectives. Now, everyone comes to me and goes, oh yeah, but that's really good because if you've got something like a heavy missile launcher, you can still target it, and you can still use shotguns to get it if there's things lining up. And it's like, but if the situation arises where something in a glued state is beneficial, possibly. But most of the time that doesn't happen, but they generate orders regardless of the if scenario. And they're still on the table regardless of the if scenario. So in a mission where having models in certain zones means that you're generating points, adhesive is terrible because you're gluing something into place and you've still then got to spend another order to kill it to get it out of scoring. And again, generating orders is terrible if you're still providing the ability for your opponent to pump those orders into something that's still alive, run it up the table and shoot stuff. So my main thing is that I just wish that adhesive put them into a null state of some sort so that they weren't generating orders and they weren't scoring points. I've vocalized this a couple of times to a few people. They do disagree. And I think they're probably right in that it's how the mechanics of the game are supposed to work. It fits the fluff of what O12 is supposed to be. And I'm not saying that it should kill things. I'm just saying it should put them into a state where maybe they aren't generating orders and they're not scoring points. Please put your comments in as to how you feel about adhesive units, especially for O12. I don't need people to agree with me. So I actually will like to see the other end of the spectrum. Maybe in N4, adhesive gets a slight revamp in that it's kind of as good as if you'd killed the thing, but obviously doesn't kill it because it still needs to be non-lethal to fit the O12 fluff. That's my hope, because I want adhesive to maybe have a bit more of a negative impact on the opponent as opposed to it being so situational. So please put your comments in there. Okay, I've ranted long enough. I really enjoyed the game. Love this list. Unfortunately for you guys, you're probably going to start to see me play O12 a bit more as I go towards Intel.com, and I need to start to get the list kind of finalised. That's only a month or two away. So sorry about that, but yeah, I'll still be up against different opponents with different lists, so at least you'll get to see how O12 are doing against them. Thank you so much for your continued support and listening to my ramblings. And thank you to you guys who put such good comments in my videos. It really makes a difference when one or two of you just go, "Hello, love the reports, keep up the good work." Like, it really does help. I can't actually express fully just how much that support does. It does help me continue doing these things because it is a bit of time and a bit of effort, but that makes it all worthwhile. So thank you so much, everyone. And yeah, look out for my next battle report.